Hey guys, tonight we're diving, quite literally, into one of the most indulgent corners of medieval life. Forget plagues, pitchforks, and parchment scrolls. You're waking up as a wealthy bathhouse regular in a world where warm water is rare, soap is a secret recipe, and scented oils are more precious than rubies. The morning sun hasn't even peeked above the tiled rooftops yet, but your servant is already tugging open the brocade curtains, letting in a sliver of cold pink dawn. You groan softly, not from discomfort, but from routine decadence. The kind of groan that says, another perfect day of pampering begins. The room is quiet, save for the soft crackle of yesterday's embers in the hearth and the flutter of doves cooing from your rooftop dovecote. You stretch, and the linen sheets, smoothed with beeswax polish, rustle softly beneath you. Your chamber smells of lavender, old incense, and just a hint of last night's roasted quince. You sit up slowly, sleep-heavy rings on your fingers, glinting in the morning glow. Outside, the cobbled streets are still damp with dew, and the smell of wet stone rises faintly through the carved windows. But you're not interested in the world beyond. Not yet. First, you must secure the most coveted luxury of your day, prime-time soaking rights in the best marble tub in town. And that means beating the other nobles to it. Now, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. I'm curious which corners of the world are drifting off with this nonsense. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You push off the bed with a theatrical sigh and shuffle across the tiled floor in wool socks dyed with rare indigo. The servant, Milo, he's a good one, offers your favorite morning cloak, a deep saffron robe lined with fur that once belonged to an unfortunate forest cat with excellent taste in camouflage. As you slip it on, your mind already begins to race. The cedar-smoked pool at St. Beatrice's Bathhouse will begin heating in less than an hour. You know this because you bribed the wood boy to throw in juniper branches for better scent. The wealthier bath patrons, like yourself, prefer their steam to smell faintly of forest nobility. And today, you want to be the first one in. You step onto the balcony and stretch, letting the wind whip your hair a little. The view is exquisite. Pointed rooftops, curling chimney smoke, and the golden outline of the monastery across the square. But none of that matters more than timing. You snap your fingers. Milo bows and disappears, likely to rouse the steward and prepare the coin pouch. Yes, coins. Because in your world, hot water has a price, and prime spots in the marble pools go quickly. And no, this isn't just about getting clean. You bathed yesterday, and the day before. You, dear listener, are what historians call a spa obsessive. You have 5 embroidered towels, 3 sets of scent-drenched robes, and a favorite footstool at the bathhouse. You've developed taste, ritual, and opinions on steam thickness. Some say bathing was rare in the Middle Ages, and for peasants, sure. But for people like you, it's practically a political strategy. You chuckle to yourself. The last time you skipped a morning dip, rumors spread that you'd lost your fortune, or worse, your influence. A dry noble is a weak noble. The spa is where friendships are forged, secrets spilled, and alliances floated like lavender petals in spring water. You pace back into your chambers where Milo now stands beside your wooden tub, holding a damp cloth infused with orange blossom water. You press it to your face. It's warm, gloriously so. Your pores tingle. Your soul tingles. Maybe it's placebo. Maybe it's citrus. But either way, it's working. After dabbing your cheeks and neck, you nod at Milo, who begins the hot stone check, a ritual that involves placing warm pebbles from the hearth into a copper bowl, which you'll carry in your sleeves to the bathhouse to warm your hands along the way. Yes, sleeves. These aren't pockets. You're not a peasant. You slip into soft slippers, their soles made from pressed willow bark and lined with hair fur, and head for the dressing table. You gaze at yourself, slightly disheveled, but still stately. The robe hangs just right. The scent of frankincense clings gently to your skin. And behind you, Milo silently offers the final pre-bath necessity, a waxed parchment scroll listing this morning's potential bathhouse attendees. Your competition. You scan it quickly. The spice merchant with the loud laugh will be there. So will Lady Cressida, who bathes exclusively in chamomile. You'll need to move quickly if you want the corner tub, the one with the best acoustics for humming dramatically while surrounded by marble lions. Historians still argue whether medieval spa culture was really this elaborate. Some believe bathhouses were mostly functional, a place for hygiene rather than luxury. But then again, there's written record of bathers sipping almond milk while being serenaded by flutists. So who's to say you're not simply ahead of your time? You descend your manor's spiral staircase slowly, savoring each warm breath of air as servants bustle to open doors, fetch perfumed towels, and polish your bath clogs. Today is not a battle. It is not a feast, but it is sacred. A sacred quest for hot water, elegance, and the steamiest social power plays in town. And you plan to win. The ledger is already waiting for you in the solar, propped open beside a flickering beeswax candle. Your steward, Clement, slow of speech but sharp with sums, is seated at the table, squinting through a monocle made from a slice of polished crystal. He doesn't look up as you enter. He knows why you're here. Today's allocation? He murmurs, dipping his quill into a pot of walnut ink. You ease into your favorite high-backed chair, its cushion embroidered with grapevines and tiny lions. The fire crackles. Outside, a milk seller yells something incoherent in the early mist. Inside, it's all calm precision. You flick open your coin pouch with one practiced gesture. A pleasant jingle follows. "Let's be bold," you say, spreading 30 florins on the velvet runner. Gold coins glint like miniature suns in the dawn light. I want eucalyptus steam, imported juniper logs, 2 towel boys, not one, and the scent mist corridor activated this time. Clement's quill pauses mid-stroke. All that for a Tuesday? Especially for a Tuesday, you reply, reaching for a candied fig. He sighs and returns to his columns. 30 florins might seem excessive to a bishop or a baron, but in your world, bathing is theater. And today, you are both playwright and star. Historians still argue whether hot water access in the Middle Ages truly came at such a premium. Some claim bathhouses were democratic, open to peasants and nobles alike. But archaeological finds tell a more stratified story. Separate entrances, richer oil blends, and a kind of fragrant class warfare played out over who could afford rose oil versus plain animal fat. You're on the rose oil side naturally. As Clement tallies up your requests, juniper wood, 6 florins, citrus infusers, 4, soft wool drying sheets embroidered with your initials, 3, you make small talk with Milo, who has returned with your leather bath clogs. Any word on who's using the lion basin today? Lady Cressida sent her footman ahead at dawn, Milo replies. But he tripped on a pomegranate peel in the alley and spilled her entire sachet of hibiscus. You raise an eyebrow. So, it's contested. Very. You grin. You love a good basin war. Back at the table, Clement carefully folds your list of luxuries and places it into the ledger beneath today's date, Feast of Saint Blaise. Fitting, the patron saint of throat ailments and wool combers. You don't have a sore throat, but your wool towels are divine. Would you like the marzipan token sent ahead? Clement asks, referencing the small carved candy you sometimes dispatch to bath attendants to signal your arrival. It's shaped like a lemon and wrapped in silver foil. Yes, you say decisively, and attach a note. I require the lion's basin by second bell. Add rose oil. Do not skimp. With a nod, Milo vanishes to deliver the sugargram. It's part bribe, part warning. One does not mess with the lion's basin. You spend the next few minutes fiddling with your coin ring, twisting it back and forth while Clement updates your household expenses. Your bath spending alone this month rivals what most monasteries use to heat their entire cloisters. But you regret nothing. Comfort is never wasted. Once the finances are settled, Clement bows and disappears with the ledger, leaving you and the Solar to sip warm barley tea from a ceramic cup shaped like a curled fish. You reflect on your strategy. 30 florins may seem steep, but it ensures you won't suffer what happened last month, when the cedar logs ran out halfway through your soak and you had to endure ash wood steam. Ash. The horror. You chuckle softly. Beneath the silliness lies something deeper. For the medieval rich, bathing isn't frivolous, it's ritual, signaling health, wealth, and divine favor. You are a sparkling paragon of all three. You glance up as Milo returns once more. He holds out a carved wooden hourglass, freshly turned. Sand trickles slowly through the glass. "Half an hour before second bell," he says. "Shall I begin assembling the gift basket?" "Yes, but skip the lavender this time. Make it saffron, and tuck in one of those candied lemon peels, not the broken ones." Milo bows and retreats again. You rise and stroll to the balcony. Down below, a donkey clops past, its saddlebags overflowing with rosemary bundles. Somewhere, a baker's boy is singing a very off-key tune about fish pies. Life in the city stirs to wakefulness. But you're already 10 steps ahead, soaked in planning and steeped in the kind of intentional self-care that would put modern influencers to shame. And that's saying something. You return to your chamber, where the scent of cloves and beeswax polish welcomes you like an old friend. It's time for the next decision of the morning. Wardrobe. But not just any wardrobe. This is the spa ensemble. Carefully curated, thoroughly steamed, and designed with the express purpose of showing off your refinement without looking like you're trying too hard. Which, of course, you are. You stand before your open wardrobe chest, eyeing row after row of folded linens, velvet wraps, and perfumed towels. Hanging from iron hooks are robes dyed in hues that once cost kingdoms. Russet, lapis, oxblood, and a green so deep it almost hums. There's even a saffron robe laced with gold thread vines, a piece so extravagant it once caused an archdeacon to faint during brunch. Your hand hovers. Today requires balance, authority, not arrogance, elegance, not excess. You select the woad blue robe lined with rabbit fur, a gift from a Sienese diplomat who had absolutely no idea what to buy you in return for 2 barrels of pepper. It smells faintly of dried sage and ambition. Next comes the towel. Not just any towel. You choose a damask weave, stitched with griffins at the edges, and pre-scented with violet water from a glass bottle labeled in Latin. It's warm. Milo's done his job well. You fold it once, then again, draping it over your arm as though you were born holding it. The underlayer is a soft linen tunic, worn loosely under the robe for comfort. You select the one with tiny embroidered ducks waddling across the hem. No one will see them, but you'll know they're there, and that's the point. Historians still debate whether bathhouse patrons truly coordinated outfits with this level of detail. But consider this. Medieval inventories list specific garments labeled for the bath, often perfumed, stitched in silk, and lined with goose-down neck rolls. Some nobles even had designated slipper boys. Is your slipper boy named Gregor? Perhaps. Does he carry your bath shoes on a tiny velvet cushion? Absolutely. Speaking of which, Gregor enters quietly, holding your bath slippers, carved wooden soles wrapped in lambskin and dyed teal. He bows with theatrical flair and presents them as though they were relics. You slip them on, 1 foot at a time. The floor is still cold, but in these, your stride sounds satisfyingly important. Soft thuds mixed with faint creaks. You catch your reflection in the polished bronze mirror propped beside your cedar wardrobe. You look prepared, relaxed but commanding, as though you might break into philosophical debate about basil versus mint for foot soaks at any moment. With your robe cinched, towel folded, and slippers squeaking slightly, you make your way to the antechamber, where Milo waits beside a small bench bearing the finishing touches. A jar of myrrh-scented hair oil and a small wooden comb with mother-of-pearl inlays. You comb your hair back, slick but tasteful. A tiny curl escapes your temple. It's charming. Let it stay. Would you like the peacock feather fan? Milo asks, already holding it aloft. You consider, number let them see me sweat, a little. He nods approvingly, as though you've passed a test. Appearance must feel effortless, after all. The final step, accessories. You choose 1 silver ring, set with a pale stone known locally as a sleep gem, reputed to enhance dreams if worn near steam. Utter nonsense, but mystique matters. You slide it onto your finger. Then, from a velvet-lined drawer, you pluck your bath token. A carved piece of ivory shaped like a lion's head. It's your key, your status symbol, and your informal reservation for the lion basin. You tuck it into your robe pocket with the casual confidence of someone who's never been denied entry in their life. The room now hums with potential. Your attendants step back, admiring the finished product. You, poised, scented, cloaked in wealth, but gliding like a ghost through luxury's halls. You nod once. It's time. The manor doors creak open, and a gust of cool morning air blows through the entryway, stirring the hem of your robe. You step out into the stone courtyard, where pigeons scatter dramatically, and a serving boy loads a wicker basket with oranges for your post-bath snack. The sun has begun its climb, casting long golden rays over your polished path. And somewhere, in a grand building laced with steam and echoes, your marble basin awaits, hopefully still unclaimed, hopefully still scented with the juniper wood you requested. But if not, well, that's what florins are for. You descend the manor steps, flanked by Milo and Gregor, each carrying bath items as though accompanying royalty, which in a way, they are. You don't rule a kingdom, but you rule the realm of relaxation, and that's more fun anyway. A bell tolls in the distance. Second bell. Perfect timing. The walk to the bathhouse is brief, but ceremonious. The cobbled streets glisten faintly from a morning mist, and the city stirs with its own slow rhythm. Merchants roll open their canvas stalls, beggars murmur blessings from wool-wrapped corners, and a group of monks shuffle past singing a psalm that sounds like bees arguing in Latin. You stride through all of it like a figure in a tapestry, your blue robe trailing, slippers thudding rhythmically, and the faint scent of violet water trailing behind you like a perfumed proclamation. The bathhouse looms ahead, nestled between a scribe's shop and a bakery that sells cinnamon rolls so potent you once tipped the baker just for inhaling. The bathhouse facade is stone, but polished, adorned with faded murals of Greek heroes soaking in clouds of steam. A carved sign overhead reads, Domus Aquae, House of Waters. Underneath it, someone has scrawled, in chalk, Milo owes me a duck. He pretends not to notice. You push through the thick wooden doors into warmth. The first thing you notice is the smell, rosemary, wet plaster, and citrus oil mingling in a fog so thick it feels like velvet on your tongue. The second thing you notice, quiet. Despite being a public establishment, the bathhouse follows strict class etiquette. You've arrived during the Solus Hora, the hour reserved for patrons of high birth or deep pockets. No shouting, no splashing, only soft music, whispered gossip, and the sound of water lapping against marble. The atrium is beautiful. Painted ceiling beams stretch overhead in reds and golds, and a mosaic of dolphins chases sea monsters beneath your feet. Attendants in tunics of pale saffron glide between guests, offering trays of fig wine, chilled cloths, and, most importantly, updates on basin availability. You are immediately approached by Arnaud, the chief attendant. He is tall, bald, and wields a clipboard with the gravitas of a cathedral abbot. Master, he says, bowing just enough to honor your coin pouch. The Lion Basin is currently under discussion. Your eyes narrow. Who? Lady Cressida's steward arrived moments ago. He brought, shall we say, an unusually generous pepper cake. Pepper cake? Bold move. Last time she tried a melon, which you countered with 2 lengths of dyed silk and a tub of almonds shaped like birds. It was a whole thing. You raise your chin and slowly produce your carved lion token. It catches the light. Arnaud smiles. Of course, I shall speak with her people. You hand the token over like a king bestowing land. Tell her I brought saffron today, imported. A murmur of appreciation flutters through the nearby attendants. Saffron is serious business. Historians still argue whether bathhouse politics were quite this theatrical, but records from cities like Paris and Cairo describe status games played with towels, oils, and even music selection. Some bathers hired poets to recite verse while they soaked. Others simply brought more cushions than anyone else. You prefer impact with elegance. Arnaud disappears with your token, and Milo helps you out of your robe. Beneath it, your linen tunic clings gently to your skin in the rising heat. Gregor kneels and adjusts your slippers, replacing them with polished sandals that can withstand damp floors without squeaking. Everything is handled with reverence, as if you're a relic being transported to a cathedral altar. You cross the atrium slowly, passing the dolphin mosaic into the vestibule, where private basins branch off like chapels. One room echoes with harp music, another with bubbling water that smells faintly of mint and goat. You've tried that one once. Never again. 2, barnyard. And then you see it. Your basin, the lion. Carved from creamy marble, its rim etched with prowling beasts and laurels. It's half filled already, steam curling upward like spirit wisps. The surface ripples with drops of rose oil, rich, pink, and clinging to the light. Juniper wood crackles gently beneath the copper cauldron that feeds its warmth. Arnaud reappears, triumphant. It's yours. You nod once and begin the slow, deliberate descent down the basin steps. The warm water laps at your ankles first, soft, embracing, impossibly scented. You exhale. This is the moment you've worked for. You lower yourself in stages, knees, hips, elbows, until your body is submerged, save for your head and your floating towel. You close your eyes. The lion's mouth at the far end of the basin trickles warm water in a steady stream, a soothing rhythm. Overhead, the painted ceiling features scenes of classical lounging, gods eating grapes, muses braiding each other's hair. It's all absurd and perfect. Someone, somewhere in the background, plays a lute softly. Arnaud claps once, and a servant enters with a small dish of spiced pears and almond crumbs. You wave it off for now. You're not here to eat. You're here to marinate, and marinate you shall. The water sways gently around you, rocking you like a pampered sea cucumber. Your limbs go heavy, your breathing slows, and for a few lovely minutes, you forget the responsibilities of running a spice empire, managing a manor, or selecting the right embroidery for seasonal curtains. This is bliss. Expensive, perfumed, temperature-regulated bliss. Milo waits discreetly near the doorway with a flask of mint water and a bundle of clean linen in case you signal. Gregor has vanished, probably to fetch your sandals a more ambient perch. And Arnaud stands off to the side with the solemn patience of a man who's witnessed every possible bather eccentricity, from monastic humming to scented duck parades. Yes, you remember Lord Guilelmus and his perfumed ducks, still legendary. You reach for the floating towel, squeeze a bit of moisture from it, and lay it gently across your forehead. Heaven. You feel the heat work into your shoulders, kneading away the tension built from last week's wool tariff negotiations and that unpleasant incident with the undercooked eel. A servant enters with a tray holding 3 flasks, each a different scent. Arnaud approaches and gestures with one hand, his voice low and syrupy. Today's offerings: neroli with wild thyme, rose with crushed cinnamon, or cedarwood steeped in orange peel. You pretend to ponder, though you've already made your choice. Rose, but not the cinnamon. That one makes me dream of lawsuits. Arnaud nods, takes the appropriate flask, and carefully tips a few drops into the steaming water. Tiny pink beads spread across the surface like a fairy's tea party. The scent thickens, silky and familiar. You close your eyes again. Historians still argue whether scents were truly changed mid-bath, or if this was a myth exaggerated by later writers. But scent, in your world, is not just indulgence. It's identity. A message. You're not just a man soaking in water. You're a man steeping in status. Someone in a neighboring basin sneezes. You recognize the sneeze. Lady Cressida. She always adds too much rosemary and then blames the wind spirits. You're glad Arnaud managed to redirect her to the mint basin. It's for the best. You still haven't forgiven her for that lemon oil incident. It was a slippery week. Now the water is hotter. Perhaps someone stirred the coals beneath the copper boiler. You shift slightly, letting the heat rise up to your neck. Every joint sighs in appreciation. You remember hearing, because reading scrolls is tedious, that in Constantinople, nobles used to bathe in marble tubs filled with goat's milk and honey. In Cordoba, public baths had attendants who only cooled towels with perfumed snow. And in Kyoto, they had seasonal baths with cherry blossoms drifting in the water like gentle pink punctuation. You don't have cherry blossoms. But you have something else. You lift your arm slightly and snap twice, just a whisper of a sound. Milo steps forward. You don't even look. He knows the gesture. He returns a moment later with your lute. Yes, your lute. Custom carved from walnut wood, inlaid with mother of pearl, and shaped so the sound curve favors lower notes. It's an indulgence, certainly. You can't play. But watching someone else play it in your presence while you soak? That's power. A soft knock, and in comes Bernhardt, the local lute prodigy. 17, nervous, always smells faintly of charcoal and fear. Perfect. He settles onto the tiled bench just outside your basin and begins to pluck a slow, winding melody. Something in Dorian mode, probably. You're too relaxed to care. You sink deeper, your fingers wrinkling, your brain turning to pleasantly spiced soup. The ceiling seems farther away. The trickle from the lion's mouth becomes the only real timekeeper in the world. Time drips forward. Occasionally, you open one eye to survey the room. There's an older knight having his feet scrubbed with a goose feather brush. Two noblewomen argue in hushed tones about whether lavender is common now. A young page sits on a stool with steam wafting off his damp curls, reading aloud from a book of Bathhouse fables, some of them suspiciously saucy. You stretch out your legs fully now, toes bumping the other edge of the basin. A soft knock behind your head signals that Arnaut has returned with something cold and wonderful. A chilled wine goblet, crusted with dew. You sip, taste saffron and plum, and almost cry with delight. Milo appears again, kneeling beside your basin. "Would you like the scalp combing service?" he whispers. You pause, then nod slowly, like a man who has run out of reasons to resist bliss. Gregor enters with a silver tray holding combs of various widths, each carved from polished bone and arranged by purpose, detangling, scenting, soothing, and hummingbird imitation. That last one's a joke. Probably. Milo kneels, wets the first comb, and begins gently running it through your damp hair, pausing occasionally to dab rosewater on your temples. Each stroke sends a wave of sleepy pleasure down your spine. And you think, as lute strings twang and water trickles and combs glide, this is what wealth is for. Not gold, not land, but warmth, softness, the precise number of rose petals. A 17-year-old playing lute near your elbow while someone rubs scented oil into your scalp like you're an overripe plum. This, you think, is living. You begin to drift. Not fully asleep, of course, because falling asleep in a warm marble basin would be both embarrassing and moderately dangerous, but into that soft, pre-nap dimension where everything feels a little too delightful to be real. The lute continues. Milo's comb strokes slow, more like caresses than grooming now. The rose scent wraps around you like a perfumed shawl. Someone giggles in another room. Maybe it's Lady Cressida again, slipping on her own pretensions. You hum softly, just a note or two, to feel your own voice echo in the warm chamber. It feels like your bones are humming, too. And then the door opens again. Arnaut enters with the gravity of a man delivering royal edicts. "Master," he says, "your herbs have arrived." You raise an eyebrow. "The new blend?" "From Damascus," he replies, "via Venice. Steam ready." Now this is exciting. Historically speaking, Bathhouse herbs were a big deal. Different regions had their favorites: bay leaves in Genoa, marjoram in Cordoba, juniper in Paris. But the elite? They competed like it was Olympic herbology. Some even claimed medicinal benefits, like easing melancholy or warding off demons. Whether or not it worked, one thing's for sure. The right herb cloud made people think you were important enough to inhale health. You motion for the steam chamber to be prepared. Milo rises, hands your goblet to Gregor, and snaps his fingers at the steam attendants who, until now, had been folding towels in serene choreography. Instantly, they spring into motion, hauling copper kettles, stuffing dried herbs into canvas pouches, fanning embers under the curved bronze bowl in the adjoining chamber. You step out of the lion basin with a groan that is half theatrical and half authentic. The water reluctantly lets go of your skin. Gregor is already waiting with a thick linen robe, warm and lightly dusted with ground sandalwood. Arnaud holds the door open to the steam chamber, and you step inside. This is not just a room. This is your personal weather system. The steam rolls in from a low copper vent, curling upward in ghostly ropes, scented with the herb blend now crackling inside the hidden brazier. Lavender, basil, crushed orange peel, a trace of mint, and something else, something spicy and mysterious. Clove, number maybe crushed anise. Either way, it's exotic, expensive, possibly questionably legal depending on who you ask at customs. The chamber's dome ceiling is painted with night skies. Tiny golden stars shimmer when the steam curls just right. Benches line the edges, and you sit carefully, letting the robe slip open at the collar. The heat is a different kind of comfort than the bathwater, drier, more insistent. It presses into your chest, encouraging every ounce of tension to melt. Milo kneels beside you with a bowl of cool rosewater and begins gently dabbing your temples and neck. This is partly cooling and partly symbolic. It shows you are not just anyone sweating in a hot box. You are being ceremoniously steamed. Across from you, another guest enters. He's wrapped in a pale green robe, cheeks flushed, and he nods to you with the casual deference of someone who knows exactly how many bezants you dropped at the last auction for the gilded astrolabe. You nod back, equally regal. The two of you don't speak. Conversation in the steam chamber is discouraged unless it's philosophical or scandalous. The room thickens. Visibility decreases. The herbs are doing their work. Your breathing slows again. Your muscles give up even pretending to hold tension. Milo retreats silently. You are left alone with your thoughts, which for once are deliciously empty. Steam curls around your fingers like gentle ghosts. It tickles your nose, makes your eyelashes damp. A drop of condensed vapor rolls slowly down your cheek, like the world's most leisurely teardrop. You let it fall. Historians still argue whether these steam chambers were truly this elaborate, or if later writers exaggerated their opulence. But the archaeological remnants, the intricate drains, herb remnants in clay bowls, and surprisingly advanced ventilation systems suggest that yes, some bathhouses were indeed this dreamy. You lean back, arms draped across the bench, eyes half closed. You imagine the herbs entering your lungs, purifying your regrets, whispering secrets about long-lost empires. You imagine the scented steam soaking into your pores, turning you into a walking bouquet of calm confidence. A distant harp begins to play in the atrium. The notes float toward the chamber, distorted and warm, like music underwater. Time dissolves again. A rustle at the door. Gregor enters with a silver dish of chilled lemon slices and tiny almond cakes shaped like seashells. You wave it off, then reconsider. You take a cake. It melts like buttery sand on your tongue. Finally, when your skin feels like it belongs to a better, more relaxed person, you rise. Milo reappears with another robe, this one of finer linen, subtly embroidered with your initials. Not that you'll forget who you are, but still, it's about branding. You step out of the chamber, sweat trailing like blessings behind you. Arno nods once. "Shall I ready the scraping table?" he asks. You smile. Yes, it's that kind of day. And it is. The scraping table is, arguably, where the magic happens. Not the kind of magic involving fairies or enchanted rings. No. This is the everyday alchemy of turning human skin from tired and crinkled into glowing noble parchment. The kind of magic only possible with years of practice, precise technique, and, let's be honest, absurd amounts of olive oil. You follow Arno through a narrow passage of tiled alcoves, your freshly steamed robe trailing behind you like a victory banner. The air grows cooler here, and the scent shifts again, away from herbs and toward beeswax, lavender polish, and the faint mineral tang of pumice stone. The scraping room, like all things in your bathhouse, is grand without being gaudy. A low marble platform dominates the center, slightly inclined, and beside it, bowls of warmed oil, folded cloths, ivory-handled strigils, and a selection of polishing stones in varying degrees of abrasiveness. Yes, strigils. Long, curved tools made for gently scraping the skin clean after sweating, a tradition borrowed from the ancient Romans and improved by your generation's obsession with spa hierarchies. Your personal strigil is made of bronze, wrapped in silk at the handle, engraved with tiny flowers. You once commissioned a matching one for a visiting ambassador. He cried. It was touching. You lie down on the platform, sighing as your body adjusts to the cooler marble. Goosebumps rise briefly on your arms before the attendants get to work. First, the oil, warm, not hot, and infused with sage and thyme, poured slowly, reverently across your back, then massaged in with the palms of practiced hands. Your skin soaks it up like thirsty parchment. Then the scraping begins. Long, even strokes with the strigil, pulling away a delicate mixture of oil, sweat, and whatever miseries you accumulated since your last visit. Every pass leaves your skin softer. Every pass whispers, "You have survived another week." Milo works on your arms. Gregor takes your legs. A third attendant, whose name you've never caught, possibly on purpose, tackles your shoulders with the quiet dedication of a monk polishing relics. You lie still, eyes closed, letting yourself be buffed back into aristocracy. Historians still argue whether such scraping rituals were truly widespread or just luxury habits reserved for the elite. Some records describe peasant bathhouses using sand or even nettles instead. But in your world, you know one truth. If a noble's skin wasn't scraped weekly, were they even noble? A small bowl of wine is offered, infused with violets. You sip, more for the aesthetic than the flavor. It tastes purple. Milo pauses to ask if you'd prefer the stone polish today. Light abrasion with river-smoothed stones followed by a dusting of crushed pearl. You nod, indulgent. The stones are cool at first, then warming with friction. Each pass across your forearm lifts invisible layers of worldly concern. You half listen to the scrape-swish-sigh rhythm echoing in the tiled chamber. Someone sneezes outside. Again. It might be Lady Cressida. You're beginning to suspect her sneezes are coded messages, perhaps courtship offers or subtle insults. Either way, they echo dramatically down the stone hall. Back in the scraping room, the final ritual begins. Arno enters with a clay bowl of scented dust, powdered rose petals, dried iris root, and just a hint of ground ambergris. It's rare. It's expensive. It smells faintly like old libraries and quiet affection. Each attendant takes a pinch and rubs it gently across your limbs, like a finishing glaze on a particularly pampered statue. You feel complete, like an illuminated manuscript with the final golden flourish added to the margins. A soft chime rings somewhere, a signal that the scraping hour has ended. You rise slowly, not from stiffness, but from reverence. Your robe awaits, fresh and impossibly soft. You stand, radiant and oily, and thank your attendants with a gracious nod. Gregor bows deeply. Milo smiles with quiet satisfaction. The nameless third attendant vanishes like a particularly hygienic ghost. Outside the chamber, Arnaud waits with lemon water and a tray of candied figs. You pluck one, bite gently, and murmur, "Excellent crunch." This is the rhythm of your spa days. Not rushed, not chaotic, each moment tailored, each action a declaration. I am not merely surviving, I am flourishing. And yet, you sense the best is still to come. Your favorite room lies ahead, the lounging gallery. But first, your sandals. Gregor presents 3 pairs, and you select the embroidered saffron ones. They squeak, faintly. Wealth is always audible in the little things. Wrapped again in linen, smelling like an herb garden with delusions of grandeur, you step into the corridor, refreshed and gleaming. The scraping has worked. You feel 5 years younger, 2 inches taller, and at least 1 sonnet more attractive. And so, onward, to lounging, to gossip, and perhaps to new perfumes whispered behind silk fans. The lounging gallery is where time itself slows down to gossip's tempo. After the rituals of steam and scraping, the gallery isn't just a place to rest. It's a theater, a salon of silk-draped diplomacy, a well-oiled stage where reputation, fashion, and barely concealed scandal all take a gentle stretch in the sun. You pad softly down the hallway, the soles of your embroidered sandals brushing against mosaic tiles arranged in patterns so intricate they seem designed to hypnotize. The air is warm, lightly perfumed with sandalwood smoke trailing from an iron censer hanging by a gilded chain. In the distance, soft lute music again, paired now with the rhythm of polite laughter. The gallery opens before you, like the first page of a particularly well-illuminated manuscript. Arched windows bathe the room in golden light. Cushions in saffron and teal line stone benches. Tapestries hang like gossip frozen in thread, one depicting a lady milking a unicorn, another a knight serenading a goose, don't ask. And everywhere, lounging like cats in courtly robes, are your fellow elite Bathhouse patrons. You take your usual spot, a velvet-lined alcove with a low marble table, already set with candied orange peel, pickled almonds, and a carafe of herbal cordial. You recline with practiced grace, adjusting your linen folds just enough to show off the embroidery. Visibility matters here. Lady Cressida is already perched nearby, dabbing her temples with a cloth infused in what she calls moonflower tincture. Historians still argue whether moonflowers even existed in medieval Europe, but Cressida insists hers are imported through 3 separate ports and a goat. She raises an eyebrow. You scraped today? You nod. And steamed. Damascus blend. Her expression softens. That explains the glow. And the aroma. You accept the compliment like a bouquet. Light, lingering, unnecessary, but pleasant. To your left, 2 merchants are locked in whispered debate over who's providing the next shipment of Bathhouse olive oil. One claims his barrels come from Genoa. The other insists they're from a secret grove tended by monks who sing to the trees. Both are lying, obviously, but that's the fun. You sip your cordial, pretending not to listen while absorbing every syllable. Information in the lounging gallery isn't just social, it's strategic. This room, after all, is the spa's heartbeat. It's where political maneuvering happens in silk robes and oil-slicked smiles. It's where one wrong comment about someone's foot balm could end a trade route, and where compliments, genuine or veiled, can buy loyalty more quickly than coin. Your favorite bard, Edric, begins to sing softly in the corner. His song today is about a woman who bathed in honey to seduce a knight and accidentally attracted a swarm of bees instead. It's based, apparently, on true events. No one believes that part. The patrons chuckle. A few tilt their heads like bored owls. You consider commissioning your own ballad, perhaps something dramatic and scented. The merchant who bathed in mint and sparked a war has a ring to it. As you lounge, servants circulate with warm cloths and rose petal water. One offers you a tray of sweets shaped like little swans. You accept one, bite off the head, and nod approvingly. Delightful crunch, you say again. It's become your catchphrase. People are starting to use it in entirely unrelated contexts. Milo returns with a carved wooden fan, more ornamental than practical. You open it with a flick, angling it just enough to shade your freshly scraped cheekbones. It matches your robe, because of course it does. At one corner of the room, a debate has erupted over the best order in which to experience a bathhouse. Steam scrape lounge or scrape steam lounge. Some even advocate for a second steam after lounging. You once tried that, nearly melted. Historians still argue about this exact sequence. Lady Cressida murmurs to you, eyes half-lidded. Did you know Charlemagne allegedly scraped first, then bathed in milk? Cow or goat? You ask dryly. Almond, she replies without blinking. Imported. A moment later, someone sneezes again, loudly this time, and the room momentarily freezes. Cressida sighs. That's the Duchess. She does it for attention. You both chuckle, sipping from tiny glasses shaped like acorns. Across the room, Gregor enters with your second robe of the day, this one scented faintly with marjoram and lined in green silk. You change discreetly behind a linen screen, emerging fresher and just slightly smug. Shall we play tiles? Someone offers. You decline with a gracious wave. Lounging is your game today, and why not? You've earned this hour of leisure. Every bead of sweat earlier, every scrape and rinse and herbal cloud, it all led to this moment of blissful, perfumed basking. Outside the windows, the sun drifts lower. The angle of light softens. The gallery glows. You lean back, letting the cushions cradle you, your fingers absently tracing the rim of your glass. Around you, the bathhouse breathes, whispers, rustles, the faintest scent of cloves rising from someone's robe. You sigh contentedly. And just as you're about to drift off right there on the velvet cushions, Arnaud returns with a question. Shall we begin the cold plunge, master? You smile. Yes, let's. The cold plunge is where bravery meets vanity in a shallow marble basin. You follow Arnaud down another tiled hallway, past frescoes of water nymphs with suspiciously well-groomed hair, and into a circular chamber colder than a tax collector's handshake. Your breath fogs slightly, and the tips of your ears perk up, not from interest, but temperature. In the center of the room lies the plunge pool, stone-lined, chest-deep, and fed by an underground spring so pristine It's said to have been blessed by a minor saint whose only miracle was inventing mint syrup. Whether or not the story is true, the water is shockingly cold. You pause at the edge. Your robe falls away. A servant, one with the calm composure of someone who's seen many flinches, hands you a small step stool. You nod, grip the railing carved to look like sea serpents, and descend with the poise of a person deeply regretting this choice but committed to appearing nonchalant. The first toe hits. Your soul briefly considers leaving your body. You continue anyway. By the time you're waist deep, you've invented 3 new swear words in your head. You'll teach them to the cook later. But once you're fully submerged, up to the collarbone, arms floating gently, something magical happens. Your skin tightens, your senses sharpen, and the lingering scent of rose and thyme from earlier bath rituals becomes somehow crisper, more defined. You let out a slow breath, rippling the surface. It echoes around the domed ceiling like a monk's sigh. Across from you, Lady Cressida has entered the pool as well, though with significantly more drama. She clutches her heart like a tragic heroine and mutters about winter's revenge. You both exchange a glance. There's no conversation more honest than 2 people sharing a freezing bath. It's all in the eyebrows. The cold plunge isn't just tradition, it's reputation. If you flinch, if you squeal, if you exit too soon, word will travel. Someone will write a satirical poem. Someone else will commission an embroidery. It will hang in a hallway forever. You stay. Historians still argue whether medieval bathers endured cold plunges out of genuine belief in health benefits or just competitive posturing. Some texts claim it tightens the humors. Others insist it was to sharpen the faculties. You suspect it's mostly for bragging rights. A servant ladles icy water over your shoulders. You don't flinch. You are noble. You are composed. You are internally screaming. Lady Cressida begins humming softly, some old chant about cleanliness and courtship. The acoustics lend her voice an ethereal quality. You close your eyes and float, your limbs weightless, your mind briefly devoid of schedules, trade negotiations, or which cousin is currently trying to marry above their station. The plunge lasts exactly 7 minutes. Any longer is considered eccentric. Any shorter is cowardice. At the bell's chime, you rise slowly, your skin tingling as if kissed by 1,000 polite icicles. You are wrapped instantly in warmed towels, not just dried, swaddled, with the reverence of a sacred manuscript being returned to its case. Arnaud offers you a cup of hot barley tea, infused with lemon balm and chamomile. You sip. The warmth travels down your throat like a sunrise in reverse. Back in your robe, you begin the slow return walk. The cold plunge is never the end. It's the exclamation mark before the finale. A final test, a symbolic rebirth. You feel renewed, like a particularly smug phoenix. As you pass through the hallway, a young bath attendant bows deeply and whispers, "You were in for 8 minutes, my lord." You pretend not to care. But your smile lasts for 3 corridors. The lounging gallery welcomes you again like an old friend with better lighting. The velvet cushions are even warmer now, the cordial somehow sweeter, and the gossip even juicier. Apparently, someone's sandal caught fire from an incense spill. No injuries, but a scandal nonetheless. You drape yourself across your spot, radiating post-plunge superiority. Lady Cressida joins you, already dry, already plotting her next scented powder acquisition. "We're legends now," she says, toasting you with a candied fig. You nod. chroniclers will remember us. Assuming they don't freeze first, she adds. A lute starts up again, and Edric launches into a tune called Ode to the Chilled Nobility. It's poorly rhymed and a little too literal, but the mood fits. As the sun begins to dip behind the stained glass windows, the bathhouse takes on a different glow. Golden light filtering through colored glass, reflecting off marble, softening the air. You could stay here forever, but dinner awaits, and your skin, now practically translucent from exfoliation, deserves to be seen. Still, there's one final ritual before departure. One more room, the drying chamber, a place of scented cloth, whispered compliments, and possibly one last bit of intrigue. You rise. Shall we? You ask. Lady Cressida doesn't answer. She's already halfway down the corridor. The drying chamber is where linen whispers and reputations get a final polish. You step inside, wrapped in thick towels that smell of lavender and faintly, oddly, of baked apples. Someone clearly got creative with the steam infuser. The chamber itself is quieter than the rest of the spa, softly lit by beeswax candles and walled in pale, polished limestone. No murals here, no windows, just silence, scent, and the warm hush of woven fabric. Attendants glide past like ghosts, bearing stacks of cloth, shallow trays of scented powder, and wooden combs carved into the shapes of lions, doves, or, bafflingly, turnips. Everything is soft, everything is warm, everything is, frankly, a little bit smug. You settle onto a padded bench beneath a canopy hung with embroidered ivy. An attendant named Ravel, whose hands are as smooth as butter and twice as expensive, begins to pat you down gently with linen strips pre-warmed on a tile hearth. He hums a tune under his breath, something almost familiar. Probably a tavern song, cleaned up for polite company. Your skin drinks in the comfort like parched parchment. Across the room, Lady Cressida is already reclining, being dusted in a fine powder that sparkles faintly in the candlelight. You've heard she mixes crushed sage leaves with powdered pearl. For glow, she says, and gravitas. The drying ritual isn't merely practical, it's ceremonial. You don't just dry off. You emerge once again fully constructed, reassembled from fragrant components into someone worthy of an audience with dukes, kings, or flirtatious fishmongers. Ravel reaches for the finishing oil, a rose-scented blend rumored to contain a drop of ambergris, though most likely it's just whale-adjacent gossip. He smooths it into your arms and collarbone with a deftness that suggests years of practice or very strict training. Your complexion, he says with exaggerated reverence, is now legally radiant. You smile. You've tipped worse for less. In the far corner, a young lordling squeaks as a towel is applied too briskly to his shoulders. Everyone pretends not to notice, which makes it funnier. Cressida turns toward you and fans herself with a silk square embroidered with her initials and a tiny, smug-looking hedgehog. I heard, she says casually, that the Duke of Brive fainted during his last cold plunge and had to be revived with orange peels. You arch an eyebrow. Unconfirmed? She grins. For now. A small bell chimes. That's the signal. Final scenting. Servants appear with trays of perfume bottles, stoppered glass, some shaped like swans, others like lilies, and one you swear looks like a pig in a ruff. You're invited to choose your essence for the evening. You walk past the tray slowly, inhaling each in turn. Saffron and pine, lemon balm and anise, myrrh and bitter plum. but you know what you want. Rose. You select the bottle trimmed with gold foil, lift the lid, and tilt your wrist toward the waiting servant. He nods. Spritzes. Twice. It lands cool and precise on your pulse points. It sinks in, blooming slowly under the heat of your skin. It is deep, velvety, unmistakable. The same scent that once drifted from your pillow. The same scent that started all of this. There's a sort of poetic justice in ending where you began, but better, stronger, more expensive. Cressida chooses cinnamon and violet. It suits her, warm and sharp, with a hint of drama. She walks past you, trailing scent and victory, murmuring, "Tonight's bathhouse gossip? How much you spent on that rose oil?" "Let them guess wrong," you reply, smug as a cat with a tiara. Your clothes have been laid out for you, fresh linens, a soft inner robe, and your evening attire, a long tunic dyed in deep saffron, with green thread stitched in twisting vine patterns, a belt of woven silk, soft leather shoes so well oiled they reflect the flicker of candlelight. You dress slowly, savoring every layer. A final inspection in the polished bronze mirror confirms it. You look like wealth, confidence, and mysterious floral prestige personified. As you step out into the night air, cool now with stars blinking into view, you pass through the bathhouse's colonnade. Columns gleam faintly with dew, and from inside, you hear soft laughter, music, and the swish of someone being repowdered in a hurry. You pause to breathe in the air. It's laced with wood smoke, distant rosemary, and your own trailing perfume. For a moment, everything feels still, complete. You've emerged from a world of steam and ritual, not just clean, but sharpened. More you than when you entered. And somewhere in the moonlit distance, perhaps, a ballad is beginning to form. About a merchant, a bathhouse, and the scent of something unforgettable. You descend from the bathhouse steps with the poise of someone who's been marinated in luxury. The moon is high now, round and smug, and the path back to your estate glows in silver light. Each cobblestone feels like it was scrubbed for your return. Somewhere nearby, a nightingale begins a confident solo, joined by the occasional chirp of something less musically inclined. It sounds like a frog with opinions. Your attendants are waiting with your covered sedan chair, embroidered with gold thread and tiny, dignified peacocks. One servant opens the flap, another adjusts the velvet cushions inside. You step in, trying not to crush the sprig of lavender someone's tucked behind the seat as a finishing touch. The chair lifts smoothly, carried by 4 men in matching livery, their boots muffled against the soft earth. The rhythm of their steps is hypnotic. Sway, sway, gentle bounce, sway. You feel like cargo belonging to a deity. Inside, the perfume clings. A mixture of rose, saffron from the soaps, chamomile steam, and one final trace of powdered sage. It smells like Triumph, if Triumph wore slippers and had opinions about robe folds. You close your eyes and let your mind drift back to the bathhouse's tiled halls. There's something about bathing in the medieval world that feels more like theater than hygiene. The scents, the robes, the servants with facial expressions like carved saints. It's a kind of performance, one you've mastered. Scholars still argue whether regular bathing actually made medieval nobles healthier. Some claim all that moisture invited illness. Others insist it prolonged life and softened tempers. But no one disputes one thing. It made them feel powerful. And if you feel powerful, you tend to act the part. Your chair slows. You open your eyes. Home. Your manor rises in the distance, torch-lit, warm, waiting. The banners above the gate flutter in the light breeze. Inside, supper is already being set, a meal you requested 3 days ago. Roasted eel with mustard glaze, pottage with lentils, and those little almond cookies shaped like dolphins. Completely unnecessary, absolutely mandatory. You disembark, thanking the chairman with a nod. One of them is new and looks like he might faint from the exertion. You make a note to offer him a plum tomorrow. Generosity builds loyalty, and plums are cheap. Inside the main hall, the atmosphere shifts. Less fragrant, more earthy, logs crackle in the hearth, herbs hang from the rafters, and the walls are heavy with tapestries of saints, battles, and one rather dramatic goose duel you commissioned last winter. Alwyn, your steward, appears like a summoned spirit. Successful immersion, my lord? You nod. Perfect plunge. Record time. I shall inform the bard. You pass through the hall slowly, robes swishing, rings glinting. Your dog, a wide-eyed mastiff with the intelligence of a spoon, trots behind you, tongue lolling. In your solar, the dinner is already laid out. The almond dolphins are smiling smugly. A jug of warmed wine sits beside a bowl of honeyed figs. You sit on your carved chair, sighing contentedly. The weight of the evening wraps around you like a second robe. You've scrubbed off the day. The trades, the coin counts, the whispered court gossip. All gone, evaporated like steam. Now you are left with warmth, with scent, with the smug satisfaction of knowing that while most of the world is trudging through muck and managing boils, you have emerged from a scented temple with skin like an angel's elbow and enough rose essence on your neck to bankrupt a lesser noble. You bite into a fig and chew slowly. The mastiff sits beside you, hopeful. You give him the stem. He is delighted. A servant appears at your elbow, discreet as a moth. Would my lord like music? You consider, then shake your head. Silence tonight. Let the echoes linger. He bows and disappears, like all good luxuries. The fire crackles. You swirl your wine. You wonder idly whether anyone else in your duchy has a ferret and spoon seal and spent half a month's income to smell vaguely floral in a bathhouse. You suspect not. Which makes you smile. This, you think, is what power smells like. The supper winds down slowly, like a candle nearing its wick. You lean back in your high-backed chair, legs stretched toward the fire, belly just full enough to feel proud, but not so much that you regret the fig course. The mastiff, now horizontal and dreaming of plum pits and footstools, lets out a sigh that could collapse a bridge. The warmth of the bathhouse is still in your bones, and with it, a memory begins to unfold. You remember the first time you entered a bathhouse as a child, not the luxurious, silk-robed excursion of today, but something more humble. Wooden beams, straw mats, your mother inspecting your ears with militant precision. That scent, rosemary and beeswax, lingered for days. It was the first time you felt transformed by water, and perhaps the first time you understood that clean wasn't just an adjective. It was a mood, a status, a spell. A knock interrupts your thoughts. Enter, you call, voice slow with post-bath dignity. A young servant girl pushes open the door with both hands, carrying an oil lamp and a folded robe. From the perfumer, my lord, she says. He sends his compliments and a sample of rose and thyme infusion for dreaming. You take it, hold the fabric to your nose and breathe deeply. Yes, that same blend. There's the rose, proud and musky, and beneath it something sharper, earthy thyme, green and clever. It smells like the edge of a secret. You nod in approval. Tell him I accept his compliments and send him a jar of quince paste. She curtsies and backs away. As she goes, you notice something. The lamp she left behind is not one of yours. Its handle is shaped like a crescent moon, and the base bears the mark of the Candle Guild, a rare thing to see this far from the capital. Interesting. You rise, robe now draped around your shoulders like a coronation cape, and carry the lamp to your bedchamber. The chamber is dim, lit only by the flicker of this new flame. The linens on the bed have been turned down. A small pillow of dried herbs lies in the center, another gift from Alwyn, who believes in superstition even more than accounting. Supposedly, it keeps away bad dreams and tax collectors. You slide beneath the covers, the warmth folding around you like a letter pressed into an envelope. Outside, a breeze whispers through the ivy curling up your manor walls. It carries the faintest notes of rosemary, smoke, and distance. As your head sinks into the pillow, your thoughts turn to the social side of bathing. In truth, the bathhouse is more than a cleaning station. It's the city's second court. Nobles trade information there like spices. Servants eavesdrop from behind linen screens. Alliances are whispered between steamy walls. Deals are sealed with damp handshakes and shared oil flasks. Historians still argue whether the bathhouse was truly a place of diplomacy or just elite gossip with foot soaks. But you've made more than one deal with your knees deep in lavender suds. Tomorrow, you'll need to write to that spice merchant in Provence, the one with the rumor about violet-infused brine. And there's the matter of the Duchess of Ildra, who's allegedly importing sandalwood illegally. You should probably send her a perfumed note, just to say hello, just to say, I know. You yawn, stretching your arms wide until your spine offers a satisfied series of cracks. Each one feels like a chapter closing. Your mastiff enters and plods toward the foot of the bed, spins 3 times, as is custom, then collapses with all the grace of a sack of wet wool. You smile, then close your eyes. The bathhouse flickers back in your mind, the steam, the oils, the herbs hanging like flags, the slippered feet sliding along wet tiles, the laughter echoing like music wrapped in cotton. You wonder how many people tonight are lying in musty linen, dreaming of soap they can't afford, and how many, like you, are dreaming of becoming scent itself, an essence, a presence, a legacy of rose and luxury and gently warmed tile. In the dark, your fingers find the edge of the robe, still warm from the sample infusion. You pull it tighter and drift. You wake to the soft scrape of shutters being eased open. Sunlight spills in cautiously, like it's not entirely sure it's welcome after last night's extravagance. Your eyes blink open, slow and sticky with sleep, and for a moment, the world smells like rose and thyme, wrapped in fire-warmed linen and the faintest ghost of honeyed barley from the night before. You sit up, stretch. The mastiff groans in protest and flops back down. Your joints creak, but in that satisfying, I'm still here sort of way. You've slept like a sultan. Your hair, though, looks like a medieval fresco of a thunderstorm. Alwyn enters, bearing a tray and the confident gait of someone who has already mentally balanced the day's accounts. "Good morning, my lord," he says. "Breakfast. Lavender bread, goat cheese, mulled cider, and a note." He sets it down, gestures toward the sealed parchment tucked beside your cup, and steps back like he's presenting a minor miracle. You reach for it, wax seal unbroken, but scented, faintly, with something new. Not rose, not thyme, something floral and grassy. You raise an eyebrow. "The perfumer?" you ask. Alwyn nods. And his compliments. He invites you to inspect his garden. Privately, he suggests, before noon. You smile. The perfumer is clever. And you, dear listener, are intrigued. You rise, wash your face in the basin of rainwater, dress more simply than usual, just a teal underrobe, russet tunic, belt with iron rings, and slip into soft-soled shoes. No hat today. This is reconnaissance, not parade. The garden is outside the city's southern wall, tucked between the abbey's orchard and a crooked row of apiaries. You've passed it before, always assuming it belonged to monks or old herbwives. But now, you see it differently. The gate creaks open to reveal a riot of scent and color. Lavender bushes, sage, fennel, marjoram, neatly labeled rows of chamomile and yarrow, thorny rose vines draped along a trellis shaped like a harp. A willow tree in the corner hums with bees, and in the center, a small tiled bench with a jug of something steaming beside it. You sit. The jug exhales the unmistakable aroma of boiled orange peels and cinnamon bark. The perfumer appears, not dramatically, just from behind a curtain of vines, holding a pair of shears and wearing a robe so faintly pink it might be mistaken for faded sun. "My lord," he says, "I hoped you'd come." "I was promised flowers," you reply, "and subtle bribery." He bows slightly. "You'll find both in abundance." The two of you sit. You sip the citrus infusion. He prunes marigolds. The conversation wanders. You learn that he sources his cloves from Alexandria, his resin from Sicily, and that he once tried distilling fragrance from poppies, but fell asleep halfway through the experiment. You tell him about your new lamp, your dog's fig addiction, and the time you nearly bought a perfume made entirely from moss, only to discover it smelled like wet laundry. He laughs, a dry, sincere chuckle. "Would you like to see the distillery?" he asks. You nod. He leads you to a small shed. Inside, clay retorts, copper kettles, bundles of drying herbs hanging from the ceiling, beeswax candles for warmth, and a strong scent of heated petals and boiled vinegar. Historians still argue whether medieval perfumers truly understood chemistry or just got very lucky with trial and error. But standing here, amid the bubbling flasks and steam-wreathed benches, you start to believe it was a bit of both. You point to a glass vessel, faintly green. That one? Rose, cardamom, and something I won't name yet. A secret. You raise an eyebrow. You know I dislike surprises. You dislike bad surprises, he replies. And this is a good one. You consider. Then, with the solemnity of a king preparing for war, you say, "I want 2 flasks, one for my pillow, one for my bath." He bows low. "It will be done." You inhale deeply one last time. The garden, the shed, the perfumer's strange robe. It all blurs into a gentle memory as you step back outside. The day is warm. The bees continue their hymn. Your pillow will soon carry a fragrance unlike any in the duchy. Something rare. Something whispered about in corridors. Something that smells like quiet power, trimmed in velvet. You walk home slower than usual, your feet brushing the edge of the path, your thoughts curling like steam. You arrive back at the manor just as the bells toll what could be 11, though it may also be 10 and a half. depending on whose shadow you ask. Your boots crunch softly against the gravel as the mastiff, ever loyal, ever slightly out of breath, lumbers to greet you at the gate. He smells faintly of bread and judgment. Inside, Alwyn awaits. He eyes your scent-infused robe, the slight flush in your cheeks, the absence of your usual scowl. Successful? He asks, tone neutral, but eyebrow notably raised. You nod slowly. We've struck gold. Well, that's convenient, because we've nearly spent it. He leads you to the study, where the ledger lies open like a sunbathing lizard. The scented pillow initiative has now expanded to 2 columns, one for perfumes, the other, concerningly, for associated accessories. What? Accessories? You ask. Alwyn clears his throat. Silk sachets, scented pouches for travel, a commissioned mural of St. Martha anointing a pillow. For ambiance. You stare at him. I may have gotten carried away, he says, not quite apologetically. You wave it off. In truth, you admire his enthusiasm. After all, what's wealth for, if not the indulgence of extremely specific luxuries? And today, that luxury arrives in a carved wooden box, tied with a strip of linen embroidered with tiny green leaves. Inside, 2 flasks. One is narrow and etched with a rose and gold leaf. The other is rounder, sealed with a stopper shaped like a snail. The perfumer has a sense of humor. You unstopper the round flask and sniff, rich, heady, with a trace of spice. It smells like an orchard at dusk. You are not moved. You are transported. It's time to apply it. You return to your bedchamber, flask in hand, and gently dab the oil onto your pillow, one corner, then another, then a whisper down the center seam. The fragrance curls upward like a ribbon in warm air. You lie down to test it. And it happens. A vision. Not a dream, but a scented suggestion. Fields of clover, velvet curtains, the sound of silk being folded by patient hands. Somewhere far away, a lute strums a minor chord, and the sky smells like time. You open your eyes slowly. Too strong? Asks Alwyn, who's standing at the door, holding a tray of fresh linens. You shake your head. Perfect. Just enough to make someone wonder if they're dreaming. He nods approvingly and exits with the soundless step of someone who's worked with fragile egos and expensive glassware for too long. You dress for your midday errands. Today's look is approachable merchant lord, a woolen tunic of warm ochre, boots with new leather soles, a green ring to match the rumors, no hat. Let the breeze do the talking. Your first stop is the apothecary to pick up clove extract and smelling sugar, which is essentially rose petals pulverized with salt. Your second stop, less urgent, is to the tailor, because now that your pillow smells this opulent, your bed linens need to match. On your way through the square, people nod and bow. A few lean in, inhaling subtly. One baker's apprentice, brazen lad, actually stops and says, "What is that? That smell?" You don't answer, you simply smile. Historians still argue whether medieval nobles used perfume as passive warfare, marking territory, declaring class, silently intimidating rivals through expensive aromas. But walking through the square, leaving a trail of rose and mystery, you're inclined to believe it. By the time you return home, the pillow is fragrant, the mastiff is napping, and your attendants are debating whether nutmeg is too masculine a scent for chamber use. You sit in the solar, watching sunlight catch the curls of steam rising from your cider. You feel, for once, perfectly balanced, clean, scented, admired, and entirely in control of your olfactory destiny. Later that night, as the sun dips low and the bell tolls an ambiguous hour, you prepare for sleep again. You lie back on the scented pillow. The mastiff sighs. The wind hums against the shutter. And in that small, soft moment before dreams begin to steal you away, you catch the faintest echo of orange, thyme, and rose. It smells like memory, like money well spent, like luxury distilled into a sigh. The night unfurls around you like velvet. Somewhere beyond the manor walls, an owl hoots, distant, disinterested, perhaps mildly offended by your taste in pillow fragrance. The moon is up, soft and blurred behind a gauze of drifting cloud. The hearth glows low, casting shadows that sway gently across your chamber's stone floor. You don't sleep immediately. That's the secret, really. The rich, the comfortable, the insufferably scented. Sleep is a ritual, a sequence. You stretch luxuriously, arms above your head, the perfumed linen brushing your cheek like a whisper from a better world. You glance toward the polished glass, still faintly reflecting the flicker of candlelight. Your face looks peaceful, and frankly, rich. Not in coin, not anymore, but in the smug satisfaction that your pillow smells better than the bishop's robes. Beside you, on a small oak table, the second flask sits like a promise. Bath oil. Tomorrow. For now, you bask in your scented dominion. The pillow is holding up beautifully. Alwyn has refreshed it subtly with a sachet tied in silk ribbon, placed just beneath the goose down stuffing. The scent is no longer just rose. It's you, your wealth, your eccentricity, your perfectly unnecessary yet utterly satisfying sense of olfactory superiority. You inhale deeply and think, yes, this is the hill you would die on. Outside, the bells toll once. Not for the hour, but to mark the end of a vigil at the chapel down the road. You vaguely recall donating candles to that same chapel last winter, either for penance or because you misread a shopping list. Either way, you're probably going to heaven, assuming heaven smells like this. Historians still argue whether late medieval society placed too much value on sensory indulgence. Some say these scented lives were distractions from spiritual decay. Others suggest they were attempts to bring a little paradise to earth, one rose-infused nap at a time. You just know the pillow smells divine, and your shoulders have finally stopped carrying the weight of unstylish linen. There's a quiet knock. You don't move. Alwyn knows better than to disturb your wind down. But instead, a slip of paper slides under the door. You raise an eyebrow, roll off the bed with an elegant thump, and retrieve it. A note from the perfumer. It reads, "Next season, we experiment with lilies. I'll bring the cat. Sleep well." You smirk. Lilies, You return to bed, folding the note neatly and sliding it into the book you've been pretending to read for 3 months. You fluff the pillow, resettle under the blankets, and let the warmth pull at your bones like slow, invisible strings. And there, just as the last candle sighs its final breath, the wind down begins. The room softens into amber silence. Your breathing slows, measured now, wrapped in the quiet hush of a house that knows it's done its job. Somewhere below, the coals in the kitchen hearth fall into their last glowing embers. The mastiff twitches in his sleep, chasing dream geese. Your pillow cradles your head like an old friend with expensive taste. Outside, the wind rustles through rosemary and old ivy, curling around the manor's stone corners like a lullaby. You are warm. You are clean. You are perfumed to the point of mild aristocratic absurdity, and you are absolutely, delightfully fine with that. Let the rumors swirl. Let minstrels speculate whether your pillow was kissed by angels or just paid for with a truly questionable number of gold coins. It doesn't matter. You did what the rich do best in every century. You chased comfort, cloaked it in ritual, and declared it necessary. Now, let yourself drift. Let your breath follow the rhythm of flickering shadows and distant bells. Let your thoughts dissolve into the smell of rose and orange, of time and sleep, of stories told half asleep on silk, while servants tiptoe and stewards sigh. Let go. You've earned it. The candle gutters once, the pillow exhales its scent, and the night, finally, takes you.